Hey, for this episode of Gen X Amplified, I am thrilled to have a conversation with the wonderful Denise Hamilton, who is an amazing speaker, workplace leader, and the author of the best-selling book, Indivisible. Listen, your earbuds are going to be in for a special treat. So to kick off this special episode, I am going to have my daughter, my baby girl, Miss Kaylin Maya Porter, to say the opening line. All right, baby girl.
So, are you ready? Let's do it.
Gen X, this is your official call to arms. We have this profound expertise that we have developed and harnessed and nurtured over years. We need to hear from you.
Welcome to Gen X Amplified, where we bring you inspirational and entertaining conversations with successful Gen X leaders and entrepreneurs.
This is the show created just for you. The powerful generation between the boomers and millennials to help you amplify your story,
Maximize your impact,
and become Gen Exceptional in business and in life.
Now, here's your host, Adrian Porter.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Gen X Amplified. This is the show dedicated to giving a voice to the very powerful generation between those brilliant boomers and magnificent millennials. And again, I'm always excited because I have the pleasure of sitting down for an amazing chat with an amazing guest. So today, my guest is a nationally recognized diversity and inclusion leader and is the founder and CEO of Watch Her Work, a digital learning platform for professional women. She is also the author of the best-selling book, Indivisible, How to Forge Our Differences into a Stronger Future, which is such a wonderful and timely read that we're going to unpack. And she's also a nationally recognized expert who has been featured by the New York Times, NPR, Forbes, Fox, CBS, NBC, and right now on Gen X Amplified. So without further ado, please welcome someone whose last name should come to mind when you think of the great Pledge of Allegiance and the words "One Nation under God, Indivisible." And I'm not talking about Alexander Hamilton. I'm talking about my guest, the wonderful Denise Hamilton. Denise, how are you doing?
I am so great. Can you just walk around with me all the time and introduce me? That would be fantastic.
Look, I get joy out of introducing and chatting with someone that I've been watching her work for many years. And I've been listening to you even back in the days of social audio. And I've been reading this wonderful book that you have written. But again, welcome to Gen X Amplified. I'm so excited, Denise, and we're going to have some fun today, right?
I know we are. I have to tell you before we start.
Okay.
I get invited into a lot of podcasts. Mm-hmm. And I was so excited to be on this one because Gen X gets zero love. So thank you for what you do in amplifying the fact that we're a small but mighty generation.
Ooh, I love that. Small but mighty. Look, that is the testament to why I do what I do. So I'm always honored and blessed when my work is touching someone and it's actually proving a point that I'm trying to prove, that even though we're small, we pack a powerful punch. So thank you. I love that. Small but mighty. Yeah. All right, Denise. So since you are what I call Gen Exceptional, and you've been doing great work, I would love for you to walk us through the narrative of your journey briefly, about your past, your professional journey, and what were those steps and aha moments that led you to first create the platform, Watch Your Work, and to get into entrepreneurship. And then we're going to get into what made you craft your first book, your first of many bestsellers of Indivisible, if you don't mind.
Well, I had been in corporate America for decades. I that's the thing about being Gen X. You get to use words like decades. Yes. But I had worked in so many different industries and always operated at a really high level. But I was generally the only or the first Black person or woman in almost every job I've ever had, with a few exceptions. And quite frankly, people started coming to me and saying, what are you doing differently? How are you navigating these spaces? How are you experiencing success from their perspective? And if I wanted to, I could have had coffee 15 times a day because everybody wanted to pick my brain and ask questions. So I thought there's something here. People need this information, right? And that's really what led me to start speaking to women's audiences. And really, I started out speaking just to women. Like, you know, these are the things that you're doing that are sabotaging your career. These are the things that will help you advance. But there came a point when I got a little convicted. Because I said, I'm standing in front of these women, telling them what they need to do to navigate, you know, the things that are holding them back instead of trying to remove the things that are holding them back. So I started asking to speak to the leaders. Before I come in and stand in front of your female employees and say, you can do anything, you can achieve anything, I want to make sure, can they do anything? Can they achieve anything? And that's how the broader work started in terms of being an inclusion strategist, of helping leaders think through how they're going to operationalize this intention they have to be more inclusive. So started out with women. That is how the Watch Her Work platform was built. I had a foundational belief that, you know, you shouldn't have to have powerful friends to have powerful information. So I started crowdsourcing all of this advice from, you know, the women that were in my life. Quite frankly, I was blessed to have a really broad swath of women who were killing it, who were just winning by any definition of the word winning. And I started just capturing those videos and just put them on the site free of charge for people to experience and learn from. And so it started with women, and now it's expanded out to be inclusion of all types. And really, that's how we got to the book, right? What's the goal? The goal is not to lift up women or to lift up minorities or that's not really the goal. The goal is to be indivisible. The goal is to be unbreakable, because you have so effectively figured out how to leverage the talents and the gifts of every single member of the team that no one can stop you. That's the goal. And so when we make that the goal, everybody has a job. Everybody has a job in that model of inclusion. So many nuggets. I want to unpack a little bit more, because we're going to get to the book. We're going to get to the book. Going back to when you started the work that you started doing, and initially targeting women while you were in corporate. I'm assuming started as a diversity and inclusion leader or champion. I'm just curious. So you mentioned the platform, and for the one or two people on earth who don't know the ins and outs of Watch Her Work, so they were videos that you were curating. Can you just talk a little bit about why was that your approach with the platform? What was it about curating videos, and just talk about starting that? Because again, many people listening to this, many Gen Xers, you know, we're at a inflection point, and many of us are in corporate. Some may be in corporate, but want to do something different, or have an idea or a problem that they're thinking about that they're the best person to solve. And you saw a problem, a gap, a need, and you decided to curate videos. What was it about curating videos that piqued your interest? I'm just curious. Well, I think people needed to see themselves. Right? There's something about advice. There's advice everywhere. Everybody has advice. You can Google it and find advice. But there's something about, you know, a soft-spoken Asian woman explaining how she navigates difficult situations as a powerful leader. And you know, really, I'm 5'11", right? You know, alto voice woman of like, how does she avoid the designation of being, you know, hard nosed or difficult, or like, you need to see the people, because different people have different stories. They have different experiences. Physicality is incredibly important to women in the workplace. Actually, it's important for everyone in the workplace. I saw a stat the other day that I just can't get out of my head. If you look at the population of men in the United States, only it's between 14 and 15% are over 6 feet tall. But if you look at the population of Fortune 500 leaders that are over 6 feet tall, it's 60%.
Interesting. And that's probably not by accident.
And if you got a group of leaders together and said, tell me what it takes to be a good leader, they would give you a list. I guarantee you height would not be on that list.
I didn't know
and
that.
It's such a great example of how physicality is such almost insidious. So you got to name it. This is why we wanted to do it using video, because we wanted people to see people that have different physicalities to present how are they navigating this thing that often goes nameless. So that was the intention behind using and leaning heavily on video. And you said something in your question that I really, really want to lean into.
Okay.
Gen X. This is your official call to arms. We have ceded far too much ground as far as technology is concerned. We have too many 23-year-old life coaches out here who have not done the work, who have not been in the places or done the things. We have this profound expertise that we have developed and harnessed and nurtured over years. We need to hear from you. We need you to jump into the fray. If you want to start a YouTube channel, if you want to start a podcast, if you want to do a video series, if you want to be a contributor on LinkedIn, we need you at the table, friends, because these boomers are sucking up all the air and all the Gen Zers and millennials are right behind them. And we have a story to tell. And it's so important that we're not afraid of the technology required to tell that story.
Woo! See, this is why the show is called Gen X Amplify, and this is why Denise is on this show. This is why I couldn't wait you need to tell your story. This is your call to action. You are so right. And so as a Gen Xer, as someone who started to watch your work and it was getting traction, you mentioned something interesting. And for me, I've spent over 20 years in corporate. I'm hustling now and eating what I kill, and it's a grind. So just as far as the kinship and just for my own selfish reason, I'm curious to know from you, you mentioned that you were delivering this for free initially.
Yeah.
So talk about transitioning to this being a great idea and you wanted to get the content out there, but then transitioning to this being a revenue generating business will help you with your livelihood. Can you just talk a little bit about that journey?
Yeah. So I left corporate and I started Watch Her Work. And I knew that the currency of our time, right, is attention.
Okay.
That's the currency of our time. And, I felt like if you started with a positive intention to create impact and just start from there, that the money would follow. So, there were a lot of business models, put it behind a paywall, charge a membership. And I didn't do that. Okay. I shared the information. I shared the knowledge, and the audience grew and grew and grew and grew. And the thing about women specifically is women are catalytic, right? So by sharing this content, I essentially expanded my sales team and made it 200,000 people.
Wow.
Because those women would go into their companies and say, you need to bring Denise in to speak.
Got it.
Have you heard of Denise Hamilton? They were the people that catalyzed my business growing and growing and growing. So I know there are a lot of people who poo-pooed me when I did it. They're like, you're going to do this for free. You're going to do this. Like, trust me, it's going to all work out. And there's lots of business models and, I don't criticize other business models, but I think sometimes this idea of like, are you really solving a problem? I generally have a strange conviction about things that really solve problems being put behind a paywall. Right. Okay. I know what it felt like to not know, how am I going to ask for that raise? Or, man, Joey in accounting, he keeps hitting on me and I don't really know what to do about it. Like, I know what that felt like in those, at 2:00 in the morning. If you stumble across that information on my site, I want you to be able to see it. Right. So that was just important to me. And I trusted that. And that trust really paid off because now, I am speaking really regularly. I'm traveling all over the world. Yes. This year I already did Canada. I'm doing Bermuda. I'm doing Kenya in January, Medellin, Colombia in February. Like it has grown beyond anything I could have imagined. And it started because I started with service. Serve the need. Wow. Serve the need and the money will follow.
Serve the need and the money will follow. Love that. I was going to ask you about them. You brought it up. So I know that obviously your revenue models now, you do speaking, training, workshops. And so I'm assuming that's great. You had all these people who were champions and advertisers of your content, all the women from the videos. And then I'm sure the incoming requests start coming in. So speaking, I'm assuming Well, I shouldn't assume. So tell me, when you started on the speaking circuit, did you talk about, was it D&I was your topic? And I'm assuming we're about to get into the book. Before you wrote the book, what were some of the topics and what were some of the ideas that you were speaking about and training with companies?
Yeah, I was kind of renamed DEI because that, I've always been doing the work of how do you empower everyone to be effective in the workplace, right?
Got it.
And then we kind of got renamed. Even when we were talking about the book of like, how do you describe what I am to people outside of me? I'm a DEI leader, but inside of me, I am a person that believes in the power of people. I specialize in the people side of change. And so I started talking primarily, the topics were how women can, if they can master themselves, they can master their world, right? And so that was one of the topics I talked about. And then I spoke a lot to employee resource groups who felt, who were marginalized populations who didn't feel like they were getting advancement that they may need. And just like, what are the practical skills to be competitive? And also another group I spoke to quite a bit was early career.
Okay.
Which is a group we don't talk about a lot when we think of DEI, right? It's people and people who want to figure out how to operate in systems that weren't necessarily built for them, how to manage change, as they approach their careers. That's the space that I've always kind of worked in. And so it's interesting today, even I'm talking about remote work. I'm talking about AI. It's really strange when we think about like working together and respecting each other. We better figure this out. We better be able to really define humanity, right? Because artificial intelligence is on its way. It's here and it's growing really, really fast. And what it means to be human is going to be something that we're going to have to really be able to explain and to really protect. Yes. Right. And so if we can't do it over here, it's going to be hard to do it when the challenges are even bigger. So that's the space that I kind of live in.
Well, it's a great space to be in, Denise. So had you always had a book in you? And if you did or did not, and then what made you decide I'm actually going to do it? I'm going to write a book, and I'm not only going to write a book, I'm going to pursue traditional. I'm going to pursue, and you could have easily self-published it. And from my understanding, this isn't a self-published book. So did you do the book proposal? How did you just talk about the journey for me, if you will?
It is a fantastic story that I love to tell.
Let's hear it.
Because it is a story about being for real. Okay. There are people who talk a good game and there are people that are about it. And so Adam Grant is somebody that is about it. Yes. I was on Clubhouse.
And who is Adam Grant? I never heard of this guy. No, I'm just kidding. Adam Grant, great thought leader. Yes, that's amazing. Yes. Okay, so tell the story. Sorry.
So I was on Clubhouse, social audio app. It used to be really, really popular. And Adam Grant was on there promoting his new book, Think Again. Yep. And I was invited up on stage to be in conversation with him. And we had a great conversation about a concept in his book that I kind of challenged. And of course, being Adam Grant, he loved it. He gobbled it up. He thought it was amazing because he really does walk the walk. He wants to hear discussions of ideas in a way that few people really do. So he invited me into the next room and the next. And finally, we jumped on the phone. And he said, "You got to write a book. I've never heard anybody think about these things or talk about these things the way you do. It's refreshing and you need to sit down and write a book." And I was like, who, me? But he didn't just stop there. He walked me in, introduced me to top literary agents all over the country so that I could find the right agent, Christy Fletcher. Shout out to her. Amazing. Wow. And we did a book proposal and submitted it. We had a couple different offers and went with Norton. Yep. Countryman Press at Norton. And the rest is history. And that's how the book was born. And I really love telling this story because it's a challenge to me. Like when I offer advice, when I'm trying to encourage somebody Do I go all the way with it? Do I open the doors? Do I crack open the box? Do I reach in and get my secret stuff, right? And share it so that someone else can have an opportunity. That's what he did for me. And it really literally changed my life, right?
Oh my God.
And it really did. It really did. And so I hope that the challenge, I'm just like talking to your audience today, but the another call to action is, who are you helping? And I mean, really, really helping. Who are you opening stuff up to? Who do you have the capacity to walk in as a vendor in your company? Who do you have the capacity to bring in as a speaker? Who do you have the capacity to make a key introduction that can really create change? Who are you vouching for out here? Because it is so powerful and it creates such an incredible impact.
Wow, that was such a powerful story. Well, thank you for talking to my audience and talking to me. I'm actually in the book proposal process now. I got to just finish it. But so going back, I'm going to unpack that story a little bit more, because the first thing that really stuck out to me, Denise, is that you challenged Adam Grant. So this all started from a challenge. Okay, has that always been in you? And like, what made you, decide to, okay, I know you respect Adam and you enjoy his work, but what made you at that moment decide, you know what, I'm going to challenge to a certain point, whatever it was. And then how did you feel about it? I'm just curious.
I think the power is in your questions and in being thoughtful and in being respectful.
Yes.
There's nothing better than a thoughtful, creative, respectful question. And the recipient of that question is always glad, in my experience, if you're being thoughtful, right? Something about Adam that you get right out the gate is he really wants to hear what you have to say. He really sincerely is always looking to be better. Mm-hmm. He really cares about being effective and his ideas being well received, right? And I think water seeks its own level. It's amazing how you end up in conversations with people that are like that. That's why I really caution people around arguing with people on social media.
Yes.
I'm like, the problem, what is the old adage? The problem with arguing with a fool is that from a distance, nobody can tell the difference, right? Like there's something energetic about being in the presence of people that really just want to grow and be better. That's why I loved Clubhouse as much as I did, right?
Yes.
And podcasts like yours where people are really engaging in deep, thoughtful conversations. Like this is the stuff we have to seek out. There's a lot of food, out here that's not nutritious, right? That doesn't feed our spirits. It doesn't make us better. There's a lot of empty calories. Right. And I think people like Adam, people like you who seek out this kind of interaction always welcome powerful questions. So now you have to have the courage to ask them.
Yes. Oh, well, you have the courage.
That's where it comes.
Wow. And then obviously invited you more. He invited you to more rooms. He developed a relationship. That is such a very inspiring story, Denise. And so you did the book. You got the reference agent. Fletcher was the first name again?
Christy Fletcher.
So shout out, and that's great. And so you got the book. How long was the process between, let's see, I was going to say book proposal and getting the deal, but let's just say, book proposal and getting the deal. I'm just curious. How long did that take?
Well, the book proposal and getting a deal, that was really quick.
Awesome.
That was quick. Like as soon as we shopped it, we got feedback right away.
That's great. That's great.
But then we got to sit down and actually
write the book. And then and I know, and for traditional publishing, and I've studied, I know that it's different than self. You can't just put it out. Sometimes those windows, the big publishing houses, can take a year or two, sometimes 3.
Yeah.
How long did it take for you? Maybe a couple of years, or a year or so?
It was about a year. No, it was about a year.
That's great.
It was little over a year.
That's great. All right, so let's talk about it. So this book, I love it. I love the color. I love How to Forge Our Differences into a Stronger Future, Indivisible. The title. Talk about the title, and then talk about the why of the book. And then I'm going to ask you, there's a great story about our first president that I would love for you just to share with the audience. I think it's such a great story. But first, okay, the title, the why, and then talk about that story.
I felt like we needed a new goal. We were fuzzy on what the target was, okay. Right? There's so much, when you talk about these topics of inclusion. There's so many people that are committed to us not understanding each other and kind of making all the words and the terms fuzzy. And I wanted a term that wasn't fuzzy, that was very clear.
Yes.
I'm very clear about what I want to see.
Wow.
I think if we could be indivisible, we would be indestructible.
And that's not
I
a
really believe that.
And I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that's not a word that we use commonly around. I mean, we heard about it. We heard of it growing up. The first time we heard it probably was in class, when we were in school. But that is such a word that's not commonly used up until the time you launched a book. But then it's such a powerful word.
Yeah.
And so I really applaud you for wanting to amplify that word and to reframe the narrative.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah. It was weird because as even when people ask me to define it,
yes,
right. And I asked other people, like, how do you define this word? Right. And nobody really had a definition, let alone aspire to it. And the best metaphor that I think of when I think of the word indivisible is the human body, right? Okay. The brain and the lungs don't argue. Which one of us is more important? That's not a fight that they have, right? They understand each is important. If you were going to lay out your intestines end to end, now I don't know why you want to do this, but if you did that, it'd be about 15 feet long, right? Oh, wow. Does that mean it's more important than the tiny little pituitary gland that controls your No, right? And your legs are the strongest muscle group in your body. Right. They can take you anywhere, but you're going absolutely nowhere without the tiny little structures in your ear that could control your balance. It's all important. It's not about size. It's not about position. Right. It's about everybody being able to do their thing. Then that rolls up to the kind of the energy and the positive possibility in the whole. That's really what it means. Like, we're all going to be better if everybody can do their thing and add their giftedness. I have a recurring fear. My nightmare is that the cure for cancer was already born. They were just born in the wrong neighborhood. Ooh, that's because we don't believe in developing everyone, and it costs us. We can't afford to waste human genius. We just can't, and we do it every day. Right. And so that's why the concept of setting a new North Star, a new goal, was attractive to me.
Ooh, that's a great North Star. So you launched a book, and what was some of the initial feedback? I mean, you've gotten great reviews. I read it. It's awesome. It was needed. It's filling a void. Just talk about the Indivisible movement, the feedback, and just what are your broader goals for this?
It's been incredible.
Okay.
It's been lovely, and here's my other call to action for your audience.
Let's do it.
We have forgotten the gift of encouragement. Okay. The power of encouragement. I am blown away by people who will find me on LinkedIn or find me on Instagram, and, they'll take a picture of the book and post it and tag me and say these incredibly sweet things. Quite frankly, I was ready to be attacked, maligned. They warned us the trolls are going to come after you. Oh, wow. There's an anti-DEI movement. Like, I was ready. I had braced myself for all kinds of rudeness and crudeness. Right. And instead I got love and encouragement and people giving me my flowers while I'm still here. It's been absolutely incredible. Wow. Getting notes from all over the world. One of my favorites is a woman wrote to me and said, I sat down with my dad and we read a section. I think she listened to the audiobook, listened to a section of your book, and we had a conversation. We haven't been able to talk for years. Wow.
That's powerful.
And that's what I wanted, right? Like literally how I think is I want to go to your back, find the knob and turn it down from 9 to like 2 or 3. So we can hear each other. Yes. Everybody can calm down. Let's all breathe. We forget we are all in the same boat. We live here together, right? We are all in the same boat. Instead, what we do is you're at one end and I'm at the other end and I'm laughing at you because you have a hole in your end of the boat. Honey, we're all sinking. We're all our paths, our roles, our futures, our destinies are all tied together. And the sooner we figure that out, then we'll stop arguing. Should we give lunch to school children? Ooh. We won't even, there's a whole list of things we won't even argue about anymore because we understand how inextricably linked we all are to each other's success or failure.
Ooh, now you need to open up and do a speech before the presidential debate. Based on when this airs. No, seriously, like just what you just said speaks to so many different interplays and dynamics, especially in this current political season that we're in, where a lot of times we can't hear each other. You know, both sides of the aisle, whether you're in a blue state or red state, you know, we're very passionate about our ideas and our thoughts and what speaks to me. But if we looked at this more through a indivisible prism, it would be a better conversation broadly. So I love the fact that you said that. So speaking of politics, one of the many great chapters you talk about is your story about the first president of the United States and some of the research and how you want to amplify and course and correct a certain narrative that has been placed. And I actually did not know before I read the book, that story. Can you just share just a little bit about that, please?
Yeah, I was kind of fascinated. The first chapter of the book talks about stories and the fact that we have a lot of stories that we've been told that are just not true. And the courage that you have to interrogate the stories that you've been told, right? And so one of them is that this idea that George Washington's teeth were made of wood. Mm-hmm. And I was fascinated by how many people, generations of children, have been told this story that his teeth were made of wood.
Especially Gen Xers, you know. Yeah, especially if you're Gen Xer.
Especially Gen Xers. We got this story, us and the boomers, we got this story full-throated, right?
Yes.
And come to find out, that's not true. It was primarily two materials. Ivory, the horns of elephants and rhinos, and human teeth.
Oof.
They were human teeth that were pulled from living slaves.
Wow.
Like that's where his dentures came from.
Wow.
They have his dentures. Like it's not something, this is objective, observable reality.
Yes.
And so it's so strange to me. First of all, who was asking this question? Think about the creativity of a lie when you're telling people a story that nobody was asking. Nobody said, hey, I wonder what George Washington's teeth were made of.
Right.
Like nobody was asking that question, but still this lie that was told to generations of United States school children.
Right.
And so I use it as an example to just remind us that we have to have the courage to interrogate these stories, to do our research. And we can't move through our lives based on faulty assumptions and faulty thought processes. So just humbly, if we could be wrong about that, what else might we be wrong about? Right. And that's not to be unpatriotic or to tear down people or to remove the whole history. And that's not what I'm trying to do. What I'm trying to do is make the point that we can tell the truth. Let's tell the truth. Let's interact with truth. Let's not move through the universe built on a bed of lies, right? And we shouldn't be, we have to make a choice. Every one of us has to make a choice.
Right.
Are we an honest seeker or are we a keeper of the story? You right? Are you looking for the truth? Are you here to protect and hide and obfuscate and make sure nobody ever knows?
Right.
And those are two roles. And we have people fall into those different roles every day. I am an honest seeker. I want to know what actually happened, good or bad, high or low, because I don't think you can fix a cancer that you can't see. I don't think you can fix a injury that you can't find or identify. You have to bring it to the surface. You have to reveal the bone that's broken before you can set it correctly. So if we want to move forward, we have to move forward based on truth, and we have to have the courage to do that.
Wow. You have a superpower. I mean, of many. And this is one of be able to see what you can't see and bring it out to the forefront and challenge the narratives. That's been a through line just in the time I've gotten to know you and have this conversation. I talk a lot about, so thinking of the principles of the book and your work that you do, you know, I talk a lot about intersectionality. So my focus, my lane is, you know, age inclusion, especially for people of all ages, but, you know, in that middle, right? Many Gen Xers, mid-career, who are in this inflection point of their lives and career where sometimes we feel stuck or we're stagnant. We're trying to move forward. We're trying to master the path ahead. And what I do through Big Career Mastery is to help solve that problem. But thinking about intersectionality, especially with respect to diversity, inclusion, whatever the name is, Indivisible, talk about for women who are out there who happen to be Gen X, who are also over 40, kind of the biases that may afflict them, not only gender bias, but not only ethnicity, but age. Can you just talk about what's your purview and some advice based on the work that you do and the principles to organizations, companies, and even to that Gen X woman who may also happen to be a person of color? How do they navigate and thrive in this world?
Well, as you know, I'm 53, but I have a baby face. And that allows me to move.
We're the same age. I'm 53 too. I love it.
Really?
Yeah, go 53. 1971.
Well preserved. So I have the benefit of being able to kind of be a spy in a ton of conversations where people in their 50s are discussed, right? Yeah. And I can tell you the ageism is real. The ageism is 100% real. There's a perception that we're not going to be knowledgeable about technology. We're going to be afraid of it. Right. We're going to be negative. That's another thing I hear a lot. We're going to be negative. We always find a reason that something isn't going to work. Those kinds of generalizations. And I always find it funny when they're sitting with me and they love my work and they love me. They don't realize they're even talking about me. Right. So I think the advice that I would give is, don't internalize that bias. You know, yes. There's enough of it outside of you. Don't have it inside of you. Right. We have a lot of people who shrink. I feel like I always have to push people to the front of the room and raise your hand, say the thing, right? Your experience is valuable. And I think there's a really interesting kind of dynamic here. There's a difference between knowledge and wisdom, right? And because of the technological boom, we allow knowledge to replace wisdom.
Oh, yes. That's a good point.
Right?
Yes, right?
So the fact that you can make a pivot table on Excel doesn't mean you understand what the results mean.
I love it.
Just because you know how to lay out a beautiful PowerPoint presentation does not mean that you're giving good advice or giving good content. Right. And we shrunk back from that. Right? We felt outpaced by technology. So I've been encouraging any Gen Xer that I come across, lean into AI.
Yes, yes.
The tools, the on-ramp to technology is easier than it has ever been. Rather than saying, I don't know, I'm never going to use it. I can't keep up. That's my favorite one. I can't keep up. Listen, you have to keep up.
You have to.
It is a competitive edge for you. And the thing about it, I work with a lot of Gen Z, lots of Gen Z.
Okay.
And a few millennials, but lots of Gen Z. And I'll tell you, they're as immobilized by technology as we are.
Okay.
I will ask them to do a task. And if it doesn't come up on the first page, if it requires 7 steps, not 2 steps, they're stuck. They're frozen. And that's not to put them down. They're young. They're learning how to operate and how to navigate obstacles or whatever. We are the latchkey generation. Yes. We know how to figure it all out. We have a skill set. So the Wonder Twins activate. Get some Gen Z in your life. Get a young millennial in your life. Team up. Mentorship can go both ways, right?
Yes.
Take their technological knowledge and your wisdom and figure out how to pair that up. You may have an incredible winning combination, but you have to value the wisdom that you bring to the table and not be duped into thinking that it's all about knowledge. I think we are suffering from a severe drought of wisdom. Right. Sometimes I listen to conversations about dating and relationships, and I'm just like, Lord have mercy. Are any of these people on this call married? Is anybody on this stage? Are they married? Right. Are they in a relationship? Like we have the literal blind leading the blind. And it's because we are absent from the conversation. It's time our generation stepped up into these places in the public square and shared what we have to offer.
Oh, so many powerful words. I was going to ask you about AI, and you actually started off our conversation speaking to that, about the power of Gen X and how we need to embrace it. And I love the fact, because I do a lot of work with respect to mutual mentorship. I have a program called Mutual Mentorship Mastery. And as you said, there's plenty of Gen Xers, Gen Zs, millennials. It's a 5-generation workforce. But a lot of times as a Gen Xer, we feel squeezed. We feel, because the boomers aren't going anywhere. You even have some people who are traditionalists, maybe more in the nonprofit sector, that's in the workforce. But you have all these Gen Zs and millennials, and not to belittle them, because they have tremendous superpowers and skills.
Sure.
But the problem and the issue that we're discussing and I'm passionate about is that Gen X leader who feel threatened, who feels that they don't have the superpowers that they can add value. And you just brought up so many examples and ways, the superpower of discernment, leadership, communication skills, soft skills. And in this age of technology and AI, yes, there's power in large language models, but being able to discern, being able to understand why you should do that prompt based on your experience and your wisdom and the past, past is prologue. And so that's so great. And I love the fact that you reinforced the power of the latchkey generation. Wonder Twins Power Activate. I love it. I just had Hall of Justice memories. I may have to steal that, Denise. I love that.
I'm with my people.
I love it. So again, as we think about this current world of work and so many generations that are out there, and particularly for Gen X, because we're going through, we're in a very interesting time. That, whether you're 40s or your 50s or even approaching 60, again, what is that just a rallying call to Gen X about how they can look at becoming more indivisible, but also looking at their superpowers to create change in this world? Joy. Ooh.
Problem solving. Creativity. We are the generation. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York.
Oh, really?
I
lived there. I lived there for 10 years.
Really?
Clint Hill.
So Flatbush.
All right, there we go.
So I was there at the maturation of hip hop, the birth. I saw it go from toddler to school age to teenager, and now to be the dominant musical genre on planet Earth.
Yes.
I saw that firsthand. So when somebody says, I can't do this, or I can't figure this out, I just look at them like they're crazy. You can figure anything out. We are the generation of figuring stuff out and making it work. And let's step into that role. And we do it with a smile. We are a happy generation.
Yes.
And I feel like I'm stuck between crunchy, grouchy and anxiety ridden. And I'm like, no, I'm really happy. Are you legit? Denise, are you faking it? No, I'm so glad to be here. My bones are starting to creak, but I still got it. We have the best music. We have the best, I just feel like we have an appreciation for life.
Ooh.
And I really think that we need to lean into that. Banish the fear, banish the discouragement.
Yes.
You need to learn more about technology. Okay. Put it on your calendar, 2 hours a week, 1 hour one day, 1 hour another day. And you just commit and learn. You can learn it just like you learned everything else. I was a latchkey kid. I had to learn how to make food for myself. I had to learn how to, we had to learn things all along our lives. And when people say, you used to take the train to school, at 13, I took 2 trains and a bus, right? By myself. And people are like, really? I don't even let my child go to the movies by themselves. That's who we are. We are the generation of figuring it out, making it happen. And we just need to bring that same energy to the fore, that same energy to the bigger stage. Speak up. The opportunities I have gotten in my life, it's because I had the courage to speak up. So say what you got to say. It's valuable. Never forget that.
Ooh, man, there's so many nuggets. And you brought up hip hop in Brooklyn. So my favorite group actually is Houdini, who's from Brooklyn, but that's a whole nother conversation. But speaking of music, Denise, so there is a song that I always ask all of my guests on Gen X Amplified that gets more into their personality. And as a music junkie, it's a selfish question for me. So Denise, if there was a song that would play anytime you walk down the street or enter a room that perfectly captures your essence and the brand of Denise Hamilton, what song would they be? What would be your own personal theme song?
I got to go to Shaka Khan. Ooh. I'm every woman. It's all in me.
Oh, I love it. Why did you pick? I mean, it's obvious to me, but if you can just share why that song for you.
One of my favorite lines, anything you want done, baby, I do it naturally. That I'm a problem solver. I'm a changer of worlds. I make things happen, right? So this idea that that's the giftedness that I bring to the room and bring it to every conversation that I'm in. And it's just a bop. It's a fantastic song. Energy, joy. I'm all for bringing back joy to these conversations. No more gloom and doom. And also, side note, I'm ready for the younger generation to start dancing when they go to a party.
Oh my God.
Stop sitting around looking at your phone. They don't dance
anymore. I have a teenager who's in high school, and I talk to him all the time about it. They don't dance. We used to dance.
Listen, when you get to be 60, 70, then you can go to lounges. But I really love that our generation danced. And I can think of any time a DJ would throw that song on, everybody hit the dance floor. And so that's what I hope I do. I hope I catalyze people to get on the floor and get moving and doing their thing. So yeah, that's my song.
Well, see, now you are a Gen Xer because you said I'm every woman. You didn't say Whitney Houston's version, which no, rest in peace. But we know the original. Denise, this has been amazing. I always love having great conversations, especially about our generation, because I'm such a passionate advocate for the Gen Exceptional generation. Beyond that, just having someone who has created a movement, who's created art, who's totally changing the way we think about ourselves as individuals, who's so passionate about what she does. I applaud you, Denise. I'm watching you work. I encourage everyone to follow you, to get the book. With that, can you let everyone know in the Gen X Amplified community how they can stay in touch with you and how they can get the book?
Official DHAM on all the social media handles. Drop me a note. I love to hear from you. And IndivisiBleNow.com has a list of all the places you can buy the book. The book is available all places that books are sold.
Yes.
And, DeniseHamilton.co, that's CO, if you want to bring me into your organization to speak.
Like, hey, organizational leaders, VPs, decision makers, ERGs, no matter what level, if you need to get on it, get her in. She has a lot to offer. I've enjoyed this conversation. Denise, it has been a pleasure. It's been amazing. And thank you for spending time with me and our Gen X Amplified community.
Thank you so much for having me. Couldn't have found a better place to spend time today.
Love it. Take care. Yes. See, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I am talking about. That was an amazing conversation with an amazing and wonderful guest, the awesome Denise Hamilton, author of the book Indivisible: How to Forge Our Differences into a Stronger Future. That was great. I am so glad that Denise and I got a chance to unpack some of those very inspirational and important nuggets from the book. I'm so glad that she was so passionate also of ensuring that all of us as Gen Xers, that this is a call to arms, that this is actually our moment to shine right now. Gen X, this is your moment to thrive and shine. Make sure you take her words and you do the things that you need to do as Gen Xers or any age. But thank you so much, Denise, for joining me. And for all of you who are listening, as always, thank you for your support, for subscribing to Gen X Amplified. And make sure you please share this episode. And don't forget to go over to wherever you like to listen to this podcast and give us a great rating and review. Again, thank you so much. And make sure you also follow me and visit me at adrianporter.com, where you can learn more about me, mid-career mastery, catch up on the episodes, and continue being inspired to shine, thrive, and win. Take care.